Hello and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Legends and Lore. I am your host, GeoQuester, and to my left is my co-hostess, both in life and in the stream, the one, the only, the Mistress of Darkness herself, the Susie Q. Hold on a second. I did not hear her. We had a technical difficulty. Give me one moment, please. Uh-oh, Susie Q is having technical difficulties. I think she needs to reset some of her stuff. Alright, so Susie Q is resetting her mic and such. So she is getting that all set up. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's 2018 today. Holy shit, we made it through another year. And have a very happy International Hangover Day today. I hope everybody has survived the hangovers. And if you haven't, I apologize for my loud-ass voice right now. But tonight we have quite a bit of discussions. We have how to start a new campaign, both from the Game Master side and from the player side. We also have some contest winners, we've got some shout-outs, and we're going to talk about disposable heroes and what is next for GeoQuester Gaming.
Okay, let's try this again.
Holy shit, she's loud. Yes, there she is.
Yes, I'm here.
Alrighty, so she's got a little robot-y, but she's okay. Let me adjust her volume a touch. So, alright, so the first thing you'll notice that Susie Q and I both are a little stuffed up today. So, by all means, you can laugh at us as much as you want, but yeah. Aww, yeah, our favorite Mistress of Darkness.
Yep, that's me.
She's just like croaking over here. She's like, "It's me! I'm alive, really!"
I'm alive.
Yeah.
Barely, but I'm alive.
Yeah, she's alive. She's alive, ladies and gents. Alright, so we have a happy new year to everybody. We did survive. We have gotten through. We have seen our ways through. And I did get one product out for the end of 2017, just before Christmas. I got out the Not Really Complete Tome of Spells. 450 plus spells for 5th edition on the DM's Guild is for Fantasy Grounds only at the moment. Myself and Jessica Wolfman, who is the principal author of it, she and I have been in talks about possibly making it a PDF version of it as well. So, yeah, we will. We'll get there when we get there. But yeah, definitely. 2017 ended on kind of a sour note for Susie Q and I. The brand new car that we just purchased at the beginning of November, the control arm and the CV joint broke in the car the day after Christmas, was it?
Yeah, that night, the CV axle and the control arm or A-frame, whatever you want to call it, it's the same freaking part. Went frickin' boom.
Yep, it broke, and the car was sitting on the ground in a parking lot. The front end had basically buried itself. So yeah, that's at the mechanics, and we'll be at the mechanics for at least probably another day. Probably not getting it back until tomorrow or Wednesday earliest. So let's hope. Keep your fingers crossed that 2018 has the wonderful fairies come by and swoop in and hit our car with a magic fairy wand.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Don't hit elves with your cars because, well, they're not good for the framework. But all right, so let me explain how things work here for Legends and Lore. We have a topic, which is how to start a new campaign. This will be from both the players and from the Game Master's perspectives. And we're going to have a little discussion about it, Susie Q and I. We're going to discuss things back and forth to each other. If you have a question, then what you need to do is you need to PM Susie Q either here in Discord, or no, either in Discord or here in Twitch, either one of those things, and she will go ahead and she'll ask your questions on stream, and I'll try to answer them the best I can. A little bit later, we're going to do some contest winners, so stick around if you're from the FGC, which, by the way, if you don't know, Fantasy Grounds College, which is fantasygroundscollege.net, is a nonprofit organization that teaches people how to use the Fantasy Grounds virtual tabletop software. Go ahead and go over to them. They're nonprofit. They're all volunteers. They work very, very hard to make sure people understand how to use it. They just reached 1,000 members in Discord. 1,000 damn members. That is a lot of fucking people. But they've reached 1,000 members, and as such, I gave away a copy of the Not Really Complete Tome of Spells to one person. Pink Thunder is the one who won that one. He was the 999th person to join their Discord. And then, for the 1,000, I gave away 4 seats to the Master GM's table for a brand new campaign, which we'll discuss a little bit later.
We have a question already. Is Geo adding the almost complete Book of Spells to the Delvers games?
Yes, indeed, I am. So yes, the Not Really Complete Tome of Spells will be in the Delvers games. So, and if you don't know what Delvers is, definitely be sure to go over to geoquestergaming.com and check out the Delvers Society link. It's a bunch of timed one-shot dungeons. I run them about twice a week. They're a lot of fun to play. There's some persistent characters. There's pre-made characters you can play. And it's tons of fun. And it's very sandbox style where the players choose what they want to play with, on what days they want to play. They don't have to play every single time. And they even choose what quest they want to go on. And then I just run. And we have lots of fun doing it. The graveyard is beginning to fill up. And 2018 promises to put an annex on the graveyard. I can tell you that right now.
Yep, looks like 2018 is going to be a very deadly year for us Delvers, so beware, guys. And gals.
Exactly. I mean, I'm happy to say that I have probably one of the largest female player bases in most of the games that you will see on Twitch. I don't do that on purpose. I mean, I do have games where they are strictly female-styled games, but I just enjoy running for females. I think a lot of females feel very comfortable having Susie Q around and have her be one of the admin partners for my stream, and they feel very comfortable playing with other women. So I am very proud to say that I have, good lord, I think I got 27 different women that play games here, so I'm very, very happy. And maybe this new year we'll pop up over that number ourselves. So let us get into how to start a new campaign. Now, we'll boil it down to 3 basic elements that you need to have in order to start a new campaign, and this is from the Game Master side. Number 1, you need to have Game Master. That's your number 1 thing. You definitely need to have. Ooh, thank you for the sub. You definitely need to have a GM who is going to be the person who is going to be in charge. It could be a dungeon master, a storyteller, a demon lord, whatever you want to name this person. This person needs to be the one who is going to be, wow, another one. Awesome, thank you. This person is going to be the person who educates the rules, okay? Whatever the players want to do, the game master is the one who says, yes, you can try this, no, you can't try this, this is what the difficulties are, this is what the dice means. That person needs to be there. That's your number 1. The number 2 thing you need is players. It could be 1 player. It could be 99 players. It doesn't matter how many players you need to have players, because without players, you can't have a game. So they could be brand new virgins to role-playing, which, hey, if you get virgins at your table, be sure to pop those cherries really, really well. or they can be seasoned old grog nerds like myself who've been kicking around since the dawn of role-playing and, think they've seen everything under the sun. It does not matter who is at your table. You just need to have these players there. Damn, there's 3 in a row. 3 subs in a row. Thank you. And now the third thing that you need to have, as I get myself into a coughing fit, the third thing you need to have is a game system to play it in. Now, we're going to talk in 5th edition terms, since that is the most popular game right now. We're going to talk about 5th edition. But this could be any of the storyteller systems, which is White Wolf. So you could have Vampire, or Werewolf, or Wraith, or Mage, or Changeling, or Hunter, or whatever. It could be GURPS, it could be Star Wars, it could be, anything, Pathfinder. Anything that is your poison, go ahead and play it. I mean, hell, if you want to play 1st edition D&D, by all means, play 1st edition D&D. As long as the game master and the game system kind of go hand in hand, you can do it together. Play Human Occupied Landfill if you really want to do that.
Let's not bring up Hole. That's a horrible, horrible game.
Yes, and for those of you who don't know what Hole is, which is Human Occupied Landfill, it was voted by the Origins Awards Committee as the absolute worst role-playing tabletop game of all time. Oh, thank you, Laren, for those cheers. That was awesome.
Yeah. It even beat out the some of the crappy like one-shot games like Cold My Baby and Killer Bunnies from Outer Space and stuff like that.
I know. I mean, it's pretty amazing that those things are. I mean, these beer and pretzel games. I mean, hell, you could choose a beer and pretzel game if that's what you wanted to do. I mean, beer and pretzel games are a lot of fun.
Fuck yeah! Make Cold My Baby the first game you ever play. You'll have a friggin' blast. You can't die. And everybody gets to stand up and shout, "All hail King Torg!"
All hail King Torg!
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so we can play all sorts of different games. They could be serious, they could be silly, they could be horror, they could be fantasy, they could be sci-fi. They could be anything you want, as long as the game master is comfortable with the system he's running and the genre he's running. As long as those two things happen, then the players should be happy. Now, before we talk about the players and what they should be happy about,
let's talk about the GM.
Yes, and the GM's responsibilities for a brand new campaign and how to start it.
First thing first, make sure you read the campaign before you run it.
Yes, you need to have familiarity not only with the game system that you're going to be running in, but what you are going to be running. Whether it is going to be a homemade campaign that you're creating, you're using, we'll say, the Forgotten Realms world, and you like the idea of Candlekeep in the library at Candlekeep, and you say, oh no, Candlekeep was robbed, and that's the hook that your players are going to be going off of. You had better understand what is going on around Candlekeep, because your players are going to want to know. Or if you're going to be running something like Tomb of Annihilation, you're going to run something like Tales from the Yawning Portal, or any other campaign, you need to read ahead. You need to understand how things work in a synergy, so that way you have the answers on the spot for your players and you keep the ball rolling. So that's number one. Understand and know your campaign. Number two, communicate with your players. You got to communicate with your players. Your players have got to know up front what they're playing. There is nothing worse than players walking into a table and saying, hey, I know we're playing 5th edition D&D, but what are we doing? And you looking at them and saying, I don't know. So definitely let your players know right up front when they're making their characters, like, hey, we're playing a silly game. This is not going to be serious in any way, shape, or form. This is going to be kind of silly. Or, oh, this is going to be kind of dark and foreboding. Or, hey, guys, I'm sorry, but you're going to need to make 3-player characters before we even begin the game, because you're going to be going through them this quickly. Which, by the way, that actually happens. Ask Susie Q.
Yep. Rob's game that I'm currently in, Tomb of Annihilation, actually, we were told to make 3 characters before we even started playing, because it's fucking brutal. I mean, we've already lost 1 character, but I think that was by choice. But still, we're coming close to death at just about every encounter we have. We're using well over 50% of our resources just to get through an encounter.
So, I mean, as you see, I mean, this is one of those things, and Rob told them right up front, hey, this is how this is going to work. You need to have your 3-player characters. It's going to be a deadly game. Your characters are going to die. These are going to be your substitutes. That's Tomb of Annihilation for you. I mean, it says it right in the rules for the campaign. It's like, hey, this is fucking deadly. Other things that you need to, as a game master, during this time period when the characters are being made, is you need to let the players know not only the genre and the ideas, but any optional rules or maybe house rules you may have. For example, are you using flanking, where characters who are on adjacent sides of a creature have the ability to gain advantage on their melee attack rolls? Are you using awareness rules where the rogues only get their sneak attack damage on creatures that are unaware of their presence? Which, whether that's a surprise round or some other such thing. There's another thing. Are you doing surprise rounds? Are you going to roll perception versus perception from one group to the next to say, okay, this group is getting a whole round's worth of attacks before this other group does? These are the times where you talk about your optional rules. These are the times you discuss these rules with your players, and sometimes the players might have feedback for you. Like, for example, we played in a Genghis Tebow game quite a few months ago, where he was running, and he liked using facing. Well, facing in fantasy grounds can be a little difficult. It's easy to see. I mean, honestly, there's a little yellow arrow that points in the direction that the person is supposed to be facing. But it got really complicated really quickly for us. And as the players, we're like, hey, look, facing is just not something that we're really into right now. This is just too much bookkeeping for us. And so can we change it? And as a game master, he was able to say, you know what? Since my players don't like it, even though I do, I'm going to go ahead and change it. Same thing with Rob. Rob Toohey, he actually takes flanking off his tables. Unless people are literally ganging up, where you have a creature surrounded on all sides. He takes out flanking rules unless you're ganging up on a creature. So, yeah, there is time to talk during this period where you're like, these are my optional rules. The players give you feedback, and you go from there. Now, the third thing you really need to get across to your players when you start your game is your expectations. Now, this could be, all right, this is going to be a really heavy combat game. I expect that all of you will have your actions ready as I come around to your table. It could be etiquette, especially for online gaming, like for, our Twitch communities. Things like we use push to talk. Make sure you don't have any background noise. We call them the Rob Toohey rules. But honestly, this is what we call etiquette. So these are the expectations that you have for players. Now, this is also the same time players can have their expectations voiced to the game master. Like, hey, I really want to be able to develop my character's backstory during this game. Well, I have an opportunity. Will you be able to roll in my backstory here? And the game master will say, yeah, I can do that, or no, that's not really what this game is meant for. And you'll be able to do that. This, at that point, is now the time for the players to start their side of things. Now, Susie Q, you play in a lot of different games, and you approach a lot of different campaigns. Why don't you go ahead and start telling us a little bit about how, as a player, you approach a brand new campaign?
Well, all right. The first thing I do is I don't like to play in campaigns in settings that I've played before. When we were with crap, I completely
Melvin?
Melvin and his Curse of Strahd campaign. Now, keep in mind, I played Curse of Strahd when it was a 2nd edition module, and I hadn't played it as a 5th edition module yet. So I wanted to play 5th edition Curse of Strahd. I will not play that game again because I've already played it. Tomb of Annihilation is another one. I played it when it was called something different in second.
Now, Tomb of Annihilation is a continuation of Tomb of Horrors.
Tomb of Horrors, thank you.
I'm not gonna spoil it. It's the current game. I'm not gonna spoil it, but it is a continuation of Tomb of Horrors in an entirely different way.
Exactly. So I played Tomb of Horrors when it was a second edition module. Now I'm playing it as basically as a fifth edition module. And once I'm done with Rob's game, I will not play TOA again because I've already played the game. And when it's difficult for me not to use information that I myself already know. It takes a lot of concentration for me to not use that when I'm in a game. Now, depending on the campaign, I like to talk to the GM and find out about the game that I'm going to be in. Is this going to be, like with Geo, I can talk to him and be like, "Yo, babe, is this like a really serious game, or can I just completely fuck off during this game?" And he'll tell me, like, "No, you really got to concentrate during this game," or I'll be like, "Nah, fuck it, whatever, just fucking do whatever." The next thing I look at is what kind of character are we lacking? I'm usually one of the last ones to make a character. That's the way it's always been because I like to look at the party as a whole and be like, okay, we're kind of missing a healer here. What kind of healer options do I have available to me at this point? So I go and I'll make a healer, or I'll make a fighter, or a magic user. I really have no preference. Don't get me wrong, I love playing like barbarians and stuff like that. I'm not a big fan of the 5th edition clerics. I just don't like them. So that's where I start. And the next thing I look at is, okay, what level are we going to be? Are we starting at level 1, or are we starting at a higher level? And usually the GM will say, no, you're starting at level 1, but I've had a couple of campaigns that I've been in so far where they're like, no, you're starting at like level 5. I'm like, all right, cool. So that means it's going to take me a little bit longer to make whatever character I choose. After that, the next thing I want to do is I kind of want to know who I'm playing with. Like most of the people, I've been really lucky so far. Most of the people that I've played with thus far, I already know either from community or from Delvers or something like that. So it's nice.
Very cool, very cool. Now luckily for me, I've gotten to. Oh, thanks, Laren, for another set of cheers. I've gotten to play in a couple of games now. I don't get to play very often, as I'm pretty much a dedicated GM, and so I rarely ever get to play. I got to play. Susie and I actually got to play side by side with each other. On Saturday, we got to play in a Shadow of the Demon Lord game with FSH Schmo. He ran that and streamed that. And it was a one-shot. It was just a one-off, 2 hours long, no big deal kind of thing. And it was, if you haven't gotten to play that system, first of all, fucking play that system. The system is great. Robert Schwab is the one who made it. He is an Origins Award-winning author and game designer. He's worked with Wizards of the Coast and all sorts of places. You can find this stuff all over the place. But Shadow of the Demon Lord, amazing, amazing game. It's kind of like D20.
Oh my god, so much fun.
Oh yeah, and so easy too. It's like D20 with a couple of extra things to it. So it had boons and banes, which is a little bit different than what a lot of people are used to playing with. But it's a new game, and it's been out for maybe about a year or so.
Give or take.
Yeah, but I finally got to play. I finally got to play a game. And as you all know, I play in the Wednesday night Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, do the Tales of the Yawning Portal. And I get to play in that. Susie Q is now joining that cast as well. As of Wednesday this week, we hit White Plume Mountain with Rob Toohey running the game. And, we have a lot of fun there. And we get to play characters that we don't normally get to play. We get to play together. And as a player, I get to see the other side of the table for once. I don't get to see behind the GM screen anymore. I get to see my own character sheet and guess what's behind the GM screen. And coming from the game master side of the table to the player side of the table, I get to put on an entirely different hat where I don't know what's going on. And I try to make my GM's life as easy as possible. And one of the things as a player that I do to make my GM's life bearable is if I see that he's fumbling with a rule and can't quite understand what is going on, like something weird. I mean, let's be honest. Susie Q and I think way the fuck outside the box. I mean, we throw the box away, we get in a barrel, we roll down the hill, we throw the barrel away, and we jump into a pool, and that's where we live when it comes to our gaming styles. And we do this because, number one, it's fun for us to watch our GM scramble. Number two, because this is what we're used to as GMs. We're used to people coming at us and saying, "Hey, let's let's really throw some weird shit at you." Now, I like throwing weird shit at my GMs, but at the same time, I don't want to see them languish and slow the game down by trying to figure out what rule would go along with the weird shit that I'm currently doing. So, as a player, I try to make suggestions. Also, along that same vein, is if I see that the GM is utilizing a rule incorrectly, or if I have a question about something, as a player, and I say this to all of my players when I'm the GM, if you have a question about a rule, wait till after the game, and we can all sit down and talk about it together.
Now, I have two questions here. Now, the first one, I think a little bit's lost in translation, but that's okay. I'm just going to read it as it is, and we'll interpret it as we go. What is you are doing, say, Lost Mines, but you're making a lot of add-ons and other things to bring flavor?
Okay, so like for example, if you're gonna do Lost Mines, but then you tag extra shit onto it.
Okay. Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Like what? How to do it, or what do you do with it? I'm trying to understand this one. I gotta read the question over Susie's shoulder. Give me a second here. Ah, gotcha. Okay, I see.
I think he's asking if you can use
Yes.
add-ons.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's your game. All right. There's not an arm of Wizards of the Coast that is the police that are going to come to your house and say, "I'm the campaign police. You need to run Lost Mines of Phandelver exactly the way I have it."
Okay, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this, and I'm probably going to say this again and again and again and again. It is the Dungeon Master's Guide. It is not the Dungeon Master's Rulebook. It is the Dungeon Master's Guide, just like it is the player's handbook, not the player's rulebook. These are suggestions that will make your games go smoother, but you are under no obligation to use them as set in stone. This is final rules.
Right. Okay. So, all right. Back to this one. Yes, you can always add shit on to a pre-existing campaign. If you have a pre-written campaign like Lost Mines, and you see an opportunity for the players to kind of go off the beaten path. For example, since Lost Mines has been out forever and a day, pretty much everybody's played it. Let me go ahead and I'll kind of do a little bit of a spoiler. So, spoiler alert, if you've yet to play it, mute yourself here for a couple of seconds. In the Goblin Cave, which is one of the first series of events, in the Goblin Cave, you get to fight the big bad boss at the end of the cave. And that big bad boss could have a link to an entirely different dungeon. There's also an NPC you get to save in that dungeon. That NPC could send you on an additional quest when you actually reach Phandelver. Instead of just saying, "Hey, deliver me to Phandelver," he could say, "Hey, when you deliver me to Phandelver, I've got this for you." Now, also, keep this in mind, that when you hand out magic items, you could actually do additional things with those magic items as well, especially attuned magic items. This is the fun part for attuned magic items. You can always make a side plot, a side quest, for that character to be attuned. So, for example, you get a longsword +1 that requires attunement. Alright, we know that longsword +1s don't require attunement, but hey, we're going to say, for argument's sake, that this one does. That means that, for example, these characters who found it in the Goblin Cave need to go to Phandelver, go to the library, and find out who made this item. And, oh, look, it was made in the Forge, which is going to be at the end of the adventure. And we need to know who the smith was, and we have to name him. And by naming the smith, This now becomes a regular longsword and goes from being a regular longsword for me to being a longsword +1. The attunement has been completed.
See, no, I like that, and I also like the idea that intelligent weapons really do have minds of their own. They're not just gonna, they're not just gonna go, "Okay, Jim," to the first guy that picks them up. They're gonna be like, "Who the fuck are you? No, put me down. Go away." They're not. That's that's part of being their intelligent weapon. Yeah, okay, you're gonna have some that are like, "Hey, I haven't seen a human in like 1,000 years. Can I? Is it okay? You and me, team." But you're gonna get a couple out there that are like, drop me, walk away, dum dum.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, Bond Boy just clarified the question a little bit. He
Okay.
was actually specifically going for the fact that you said that you wouldn't play in a campaign you've ever played before. But so what if he made Lost Mine of Fandelver with add-ons? Would you play something like that? And I can actually answer this for you because you have.
Yes, yes, then I would. But if it's this, like, I'm one of those people. I don't like doing the same, like doing the same campaign over and over and over again. Like I said, it's I have to concentrate a lot not to be able to put the information that I already know into my character, because my character's supposed to be running through this at, the first time ever. If I've had multiple characters that have gone through the same area, it's very, very difficult for me to be not to be like, "Hey, there's a goblin behind that wall over there. I'm gonna hide here. I'm gonna shoot." That kind of stuff. Or I already know where the secret door is. I'm gonna search that wall, kind of thing. It's very difficult, and I really have to concentrate, and it kind of takes the fun away from me. But now, if you tell me you're playing Lost Mines, but you kind of tweaked it a little bit, that's where you start getting my interest, because then I'm more than willing to go through Lost Mines again, as long as you've tweaked it.
Yeah, I mean, I had done something like that this last year. It was around
Yep.
Christmas time this last year. Susie Q had already played Lost Mines and had spun off to become the Ravenloft game. I was playing in that game as well. Um, and then what I did was I tweaked it. And it was an entirely new group of adventurers that was trying to find the previous adventurers, who was our group, who ended up going to Ravenloft, trying to find us because we had been lost, and the Council of Neverwinter, the Lord's Council, just didn't know where we went and wanted to. I mean, they hadn't heard from us in like 8 months, so they wanted to know what the hell was going on. Were we
Yep.
dead? Was everything okay? And so the players came through and they got to see the aftermath 8 months later of, oh look, the original players had made the Goblin tribe allies by putting a different goblin in charge, and so now these were allies to Fandelver instead, and we went on and on and on and on and on, and the players had lots of fun. I mean, unfortunately, I had to end the campaign before its actual terminus, but I added things to it. I added secret doors here and there, extra dungeons, little things here, little things there, and I dropped little snippets, little tips of the hat to the original group that had run through. I'm like, oh look, there's this. Oh look, there's that, and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you can always add stuff or change stuff. Hell, use the same maps and then change everything. It does not matter. Now, I saw that there was.
There is another question in chat, and it's from Layron. He wants to know, and it's actually asked to me: how do you get out of the pre-gen rut? Meaning, how does a DM quickly crank out some decent pre-gens for Fantasy Grounds? Who's saying you have to use pre-gens?
Well, no, no, no. See,
I
no,
mean,
I understand. No, I understand this.
but no, 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 no. I'm not saying pre-gens are a bad thing. Not at all. Not at all. I'm not even saying that. What I'm saying is if you don't want to crank out a crap ton of pre-gens, don't. Have your players put in some work. But if you wanna, and I'm sure Genghis Tebow can chime in on this one. There's no really quick and easy way to crank out a shit ton of pre-gens. There really isn't, especially if you want decent ones, because like with any character, you have to put at least a little bit of thought into it. Or what you can do is you can do your basic pre-gens, and then when your players choose whatever pre-gen they're going to play, let them tweak it.
Exactly. Well, I mean, there's no such thing as a pre-gen character. There's pre-gen stats on a character sheet.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter if you use the same exact character sheet for 10 people around the table and the same exact stats, the same exact everything on those character sheets. Every single person around that table is going to play that character differently, and they're going to make it their own. So having pre-gen stats is not a big deal. How do you get out of the rut of doing that over and over and over again? As Susie has said, as I've said in the past, that is when you start bringing the players to bear. Now, when starting a new campaign, if the players don't understand the game system, like for example, let's say Shadow of the Demon Lord. Susie has never played it before. I've only read it. I'd never run it. I'd never even touched the character sheet or anything like that. You could very well make a pre-gen character list that players could play. And then, after they've played that first one-shot, we'll say it's supposed to be a fatal one-shot where the characters die. Those pre-gens all die. Those players are now allowed to make new characters. Their quote-unquote session 0 is playing the game to understand what the stats mean on their character sheets. Then they go through and they make their characters for the actual session 1, where they may start with an investigation of a combat scene where all these dead people are, which happen to be the pre-gen characters, and you use those pre-gen characters that they already played and the little thing that happened during that session 0 to add color and flavor and keep the spirit of the game that you had gotten in your first session alive with these brand new characters. And now these players have a little bit more connection to those characters and want to keep them alive.
Exactly. Now, FA Schmo was nice enough to kind of walk me through a little bit of making a character for Shadow of the Demon Lord. I watched the screen the entire time he was walking me through it. I can now make a character on my own. Now, we do have another question. How do you create a world if you're not really good or creative or have piss poor imagination? Now, I am going to go right from, because I just watched this movie today and I'm so happy. Dead Poet Society, when Robin Williams and Ethan Hawke's characters, and he's trying to get him to create a poem. And he's like, "All right, you describe this guy to me." So, think about your world. It's going to take you a little bit longer. Think about your world. What is your world like? All right, now put some flavor into it. What are people doing in your world? Now add another thing. What are they saying?
Well, see, that goes into the campaign creation aspect of it, which actually is probably the next topic. To create a campaign, and this actually goes, Robin Williams and Dead Poet Society actually has a very good way of doing it, which is actually kind of a standard way of doing it for all fantasy writers, for all game designers. It's called the microcosm. And what it is you start with the immediate situation. That immediate situation could be the players are in a tavern. We'll go with Yawning Portal, okay? The players start in the Yawning Portal Tavern, which is inside the city of Waterdeep. So they're at the Yawning Portal Inn. The only thing you need to worry about is what is there. Now, the players ask questions about Yawning Portal. They ask questions about where are they. You now extend your sphere of influence. All right, now you go to the block around the Yawning Portal. Okay, what else is here? Who else is here? Now you go to the entire city. Okay, what's in Waterdeep? Now what's outside Waterdeep? What's up the Sword Coast? What's in the north? What is this? What is this? What's Faerun? What's, Abir Torel? What is, the Crystal Sphere? What is this? What is this? What is this? And you just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And you add sites. That's called a site-based campaign. It's a microcosmic look at a campaign and top-down design. That is a very standard way of being able to do these things. Oh my gosh, thanks for the cheers again. That is a very standard way for creating a campaign. It's a site-based campaign where you go from A to B to C to D to E, and it's very linear. Now, as the game master, you know that the railroad goes one way. It goes from A to E. You know that there are stops along the way, B, C, and D. That's it. But to the players, you give them the illusion of choice around those things, and possibly at some of those stopping points, we'll say at stop B, there may be 2 red herrings plus the actual plot line. The red herrings may go down a couple of little truncated branches to lead you to little MacGuffins, something that'll help you down the line, but the players don't know this yet. So as you begin to design your campaign, as you begin to play your campaign, you only have a basic loose outline of what you're going to be doing. You know what you want your players to do, but you have a basic loose outline. You keep it loose because the players are their own people. They have their own thoughts. They are going to do weird shit that is going to go way off the beaten path. And you're going to be like, what do I do here? My module says they can't do this.
Okay, I have another question. This is, do you recommend new DMs carry a mini notebook and jot down notes or ideas that they may have during the day for their games if they have a creative block? Actually, yes, I do, and I recommend you pick up some shower crayons as well. I don't know how many shower stalls Geo has almost ruined because he couldn't find a crayon and couldn't find a soap crayon and went and got one of the kids' wax ones and wrote all over the walls.
Yes, I keep a notebook in my pocket no matter where I go. Like, for example, I was at, as many of you know, one of the reasons why I didn't stream last week, other than the holidays, was the fact that Junior had a wrestling tournament for 2 days, on Thursday and Friday. I was there at the wrestling tournament, and I had a notebook in my pocket so that in between wrestling matches and in this long-ass day, I could sit down in the cafeteria at the high school, and I could sit there and I could jot shit down if I wanted to. And I have my cell phone with me, which I have notepads on my cell phone, so I could draw maps if I want to. I've got, moleskin notebooks. That's what I use. They have the grids inside them, so I could draw quick maps. I do that a lot. I draw maps all the time by hand. That's why when people watch my mapping streams, my dungeon design streams, it always seems like I'm copying something down. It's because I am. I am copying a lot of shit down. It's stuff I've drawn out by hand, and I draw it in the old style. Just to say, I draw things way ancient, like basic edition ways of doing things, where each square equals 10 feet, and then of course I have to translate it into modern gaming, which each square equals 5 feet. So sometimes I'll be looking at my squares going, how the fuck did I do this again? I know I want this to be this way, but now this is all this way and lopsided and bad and all the rest of that shit. But definitely, copy stuff down. If you have a bright idea while you're at work, and I've done this more than once. If you have a bright idea while you're at work, you just whip this thing out of your pocket, jot down your note, put it back in your pocket, and keep on going. If you're driving and you can't stop to write something down, pick up your cell phone or whatever happens to be nearby. Record, a voice recording of yourself saying, "Hey, I have an idea."
Make sure you pull over into a parking area or the side of the road first, please.
Yes, GeoQuester Gaming does not take responsibility if you crash and die while you're jotting down GM ideas, or get yourself fired while having GM ideas. I'm not taking responsibility for that.
Yeah, hashtag don't try this at home.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I do this kind of stuff all the time. Also, like I'll be sitting down, I'll be watching TV. I'll break out, or I'll have, actually every one of my children has it. Susie has it. I have it. We have note cards, 3x5 index cards that sit nearby us, like easy arm's reach in every single room of the house, even the kitchen, the bathroom. And as Susie just said, yes, I do write on the walls in my shower, because everybody has those shower epiphanies, or, your shitter epiphanies, where you sit there and you're like, oh, wow, I have this great idea, but I have nothing to write on, and you take a crayon and you write on something. Well, I write stuff down all the time. I use 3x5 index cards to write down encounter ideas and, traps or some other such thing, and then I'll file them away, and I'll use them in the future as I flip through my note cards and say, oh, look at this one. I haven't used this one before, and I'll throw that one into an adventure, and it just makes things easier for me to lay out later on. But that's how I do things. You always definitely want to make sure to write shit down. If you have a great idea, write it down as fast as possible.
Now, have you or do you make some of the NPCs as PCs, or assign that NPC to a player if they arrive late in the campaign, or substitute for absent or dead characters? I can tell you right now, the absent characters go in the box of PCs that shall not be touched.
Yes, I do have a box of PCs that can't be harmed. They only pop their head out of the box when they have a skill or an ability that is required at that moment in time. Like, for example, if the healer needs to jump out of the box in order to heal people. Or the bard jumps out of the box to make a skill check to persuade somebody. Or, the arcane spellcaster needs to jump out of the box to make a skill check to say, oh, the spell book has this arcane writing inside. That's the only time I ever have the PCs jump out of the box. Otherwise, the PCs just kind of sit off on the side, and I let the ones who are here be the stars of the show. But at the same time, I also only give the PCs who are there the experience points. I don't give the other ones any experience points. Now, if I have a brand new PC to a brand new campaign that has not shown up yet, he's going to be late. Now, this happens all the time. People show up late, especially in face-to-face games. It happens all the time. I may have a... Wow, Susie. I may have a pre-made PC sitting on the side waiting for them, or I may have asked them to make their PC in advance, and I'll introduce them later. But I tend to let players play themselves. I don't try to make their characters for them. I don't try to make their characters do specific actions. I'll suggest from time to time, maybe they may want to try this skill, or maybe they want to try that spell. But for the most part, I allow my players to figure it out themselves. And I don't want people to try to second guess for other players. Like, I wouldn't have Susie play Schmo's character in Yawning Portal, because Susie is not Schmo. She will not respond the same way Schmo does.
Nope.
I hate playing somebody else's character. I mean, I did.
Oh my god.
I did play one the last game session of Hidden Shrine of Tomoa-chan. I played Doug's druid. And I hated doing it, but Doug couldn't play anymore. He had other obligations, so he had to do that. So I had to play the healer, along with my thief. And I don't like doing that. So, now, before we get into some more other questions, 'cause I know there's more questions out there. Susie has them kind of up on our screen right now. I'm going to do some shout-outs, but what I would like everybody to do is go ahead and throw into the chat where you are currently from. That way, I've noticed that in YouTube and other locations, people like to have little shout-outs to their hometowns and such like that. So go ahead, let's everybody go ahead and throw up where you're from, and I will read them out loud and stuff while I give shout-outs to some other people. First of all, I want to give shout-outs to our two sponsors. Our first sponsor is Dolman Creative Studios. I'd like to thank them for all their help, all the work that they've done in the past and currently to help bring things to the DM's Guild that I've been creating, or I've been partners in creating. And so Dolman Creative Studios, great people. I'd like to thank them very much. I also want to thank Smiteworks USA. Smiteworks are the creators of Fantasy Grounds. They sponsor this channel by allowing us to give away a standard license copy of Fantasy Grounds every month, which we do at the end of the month. The last show, Legends and Lore show of the month, usually I give away a random copy of it, of the standard license, so anybody can have it. I want to thank two nonprofit organizations. The first nonprofit organization I want to thank today specifically is Fantasy Grounds College. Fantasy Grounds College is not associated with Fantasy Grounds. They are a non-for-profit, all-volunteer-based organization that helps teach people how to use the Fantasy Grounds virtual tabletop. And they're run by Layrun, who is currently here in chat. He's been throwing up all sorts of cheers and stuff, and he's currently the bit boss, so if anybody wants to kill Layrun, go ahead and start cheering. You'll kill him. But he's here, and I'd like to thank them. If you need to have any information about Fantasy Grounds College, who just reached just over 1,000 members at this point, in their Discord, if you need to see them or schedule classes or learn how to use Fantasy Grounds in any way, shape, or form, go to fantasygroundscollege.net. Get all of your stuff there from them. Also, another nonprofit organization is the Blackmore Society. Blackmore Society, run by, excuse me, run by a great set of guys. They're the ones who schedule all the special guests that we have when it comes to our special days. They do all sorts of wonderful things. And, like, for example, they're the ones who scheduled Matt Forbeck to play on my table. They're the ones who scheduled Jeff from the System Mastery podcast to play on my table. I mean, they're the ones who scheduled Susie Q to play with Frank Menser last year.
Yep, yep.
So yes, excuse me. Yeah, they're great people. They know all sorts of people in the industry. Absolutely awesome. I absolutely love them. Casey Rift is the head of that organization, and I'd like to thank him for all of the hard work that he's done. I'd also like to thank everybody from my Discord, from Rob Tui's Discord, Lazy Stooner's Discord, FSH Schmo. Oh my gosh, just the list goes on and on. GM Bambuski, Zelikar. Oh God, there's just on and on and on and on and on. The list just keeps on going. The other Twitch streamers who stream pretty much only Fantasy Grounds and D&D content. These people are doing fantastic work. Back in the day when Rob and myself and Schmo were like the first three people who were on Twitch doing Fantasy Grounds, these other people started coming in, and now if you look at the D&D streams, more around half, I would say, are Fantasy Grounds. They're no longer, they're no longer just Roll20 or the weird cam role playing stuff that people do.
Yep.
So all right, so let's see, where do we got people from here, Susie?
Oh, let's see here. We've got Minnesota, Michigan, Skane, Sweden, Minnesota, Tampa, Florida, Indiana, more Michigan.
We got Buffalo, we've got Seattle.
Yeah, Buffalo, Seattle.
Good Lord, we got people from all over the place. Holy shit.
Yep, we certainly do.
All right. So now, so I've handed Susie Q, while we've been talking, I handed Susie Q a whole bunch of dice. And these dice are for our contest winners. Now, our contest winners, what they're winning here, these are for an FGC only seat at my Game Master's table. Okay. They're getting to play in a brand new campaign that starts at 10th level. And it'll be available the second quarter of 2018, so in about 3-4 months. While they're playing, they'll be able to. It'll be up on the DM's Guild in a Fantasy Grounds module. It'll also be up on DM's Guild in a PDF shortly thereafter. But they're winning a spot at my table to play test. And not only do they get to play it, but they're going to have their names put inside the module as play testers. Alright, so Susie Q, please go ahead and roll those dice, and we will pick our first winner. Alright, so we have our first one, which is Alexandre. Alexandre, you are our first winner. You have our first seat. All right, Susie Q. All right, let's see here. Our next person is Zoo. Zoo, you are the next person. So you have our second seat at the Master Game Master's table.
All right. Way to go, Zoo. Congrats, Alex.
All right. Third up is Black Bren. Black Bren, you have our third seat. All right. Now we only have one seat left, and I still have quite a large number of people sitting here on this one. Alrighty. And with that roll, that would be Bond Boy 008. Congratulations, Bond Boy. You have the fourth and final seat to this wonderful campaign.
Well, congrats to Alex, Zoo, Black Bren, and Bond Boy. Way to go, guys. Yep. Okay, now, if you're not part of our Discord, make sure that you join our Discord so that way you'll be able to log into the game and everything like that. Alex, how many people were on the list? I can't even name how many people were on the list. Like
10. We had 10.
10. So I haven't seen the list. I just rolled the dice. So there you go. If you haven't run in a game, if you haven't played in a game before, I can tell you right now, it's going to be a lot of fun.
So yes, and this game is it's starting off with these 4. When you 4 join my Discord, I will let you know. You'll be getting a special role in my Discord channel where you're going to have a room all to yourself that has the character creation options and such in there. It is a room that only my mods, the admins, and the 4 of you will have access to. Nobody else can see it, so nobody else can talk in it, nobody else can do anything else in it or influence you in any way, shape, or form or know what's going on. So, thanks for the follow. So there's that. Now, we also have something else, which I've been teasing for months, and Shadzar has been talking about it in kind of circumspect kind of ways. Shadzar, for those of you who don't know, Shadzar is probably the unsung superhero of my Discord and Twitch and website. Shadzar is our unofficial / official webmaster for our website. He's the wizard of code that has put all of the coding involved to our website and made it also beautiful, especially the Delver site. The Delver site, for those of you who haven't gotten to see it yet, geoquester.com, geoquestergaming.com/Delvers. If you go over there and take a look at it, it is one of the most beautiful websites you'll ever see. I absolutely love it. He adds stuff to it all the time. But Shad and I, we talk behind the scenes all the time about what's coming up, what's next, what we want to see, what I want to do, and I bounce things off of him. He's my soundboard for random weird stuff, because he's an old grognard like I am. He has never left 2nd edition, and he's going to continue staying in AD&D 2nd edition, that neck of the woods, for the rest of his life. So we've been talking about fatalities. And, how come, 5th edition doesn't have things like save versus death, where, if you don't make your saving throw, you die immediately. There's no second chance. There's no death saves. There is no the rest of this other stuff. It is, I'm saving versus poison, or the poison kills me outright. There's no poison condition or any of the rest of this stuff. And I laugh, and I tee-hee, and I giggle. And we get talking about this in Discord all the time, where we talk about all these advanced topics, where we throw things back in time. And as Genghis is like, fuck that guy. Yes. And Susie Q got mad because I was talking to Junior today, and I was telling Junior about another module that I'm writing. It's actually a series of modules. It's 6 adventure modules, which will be up on the DM's Guild either the 2nd or 3rd quarter of 2018, and it's going under the Tales of the Yawning Portal, and it's called Dungeon Delves. And those who are in my Delver Society, they already know what my Delves are like. Now we're going to use the Yawning Portal and the idea of Forgotten Realms and Waterdeep and everything else behind it. And I was talking to Junior about some of the special goofiness and craziness that was going on in some of these modules. And Susie was like, how the hell does Shad know about this stuff before I know about this? And she came into Discord and started screaming at him about it. And that's what triggered the rest of Discord to launch off into We Hate Shad, who I don't. I think he's the greatest guy ever. But I would like to announce, and this is the special announcement, I would like to announce Disposable Heroes. Disposable Heroes is going to be the preternatural doom and gloom. I'm going to kill every fucking one of you, and if I don't, then you're lucky. Those are these adventure modules. These 6 dungeon delves are going to slay players. Now, there is a Disposable Heroes chat group inside my Discord. People who want to play Disposable Heroes are welcome to. I'll have more information involved on what kind of characters you can create and all the rest of this kind of stuff in the future. Not yet. Let me get some of these other things taken care of first. Disposable Heroes is coming soon. And Disposable Heroes, you gotta be, just like Tomb of Annihilation, you gotta take this with a grain of salt. You're gonna die. Alright, this is a playtest. We gotta find out how lethal these are. So that way if I say this is a 7th level adventure, and I kill 4 7th level player characters, well, then we know that it's too lethal if I keep killing them over and over again. Now, they're also meant to be played repeatedly. So you could play with the same exact players over and over and over again. Like Susie says, oh, I hate playing games where I've already played them and I know what's going on. That's kind of the point for this one. You're supposed to know what's going on. You're supposed to be hitting it and dying over and over and over again. I love it. This is going to be great. And I can't wait. So these are going to be super lethal. We're talking save or die. We're talking you get a persistent effect on your character that doesn't go away. You don't get the, hey, do I get a secondary wisdom save at the end of my next turn to make this fall off? No, motherfucker, you don't. You die. Matter of fact, it gets worse. Ha 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 ha. You know, that's the kind of stuff that we're talking about here. We're talking, this is, oh yeah, Dark Souls D&D, okay? I mean, maybe I should call it that. Maybe I should call it Dark Souls. But we call it Disposable Heroes. Why do we call it Disposable Heroes? Because you're going to be ripping up character sheets. And anybody who watched the Stream of Annihilation that was done by Wizards of the Coast before Tomb of Annihilation was announced, where they would pick up character sheets and they would tear them in half, and Chris Perkins would laugh uproariously. Ha 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 ha! I'm going to delete your Fantasy Grounds character. That is what I'm going to do when your character dies. I delete your character.
That's awesome. I want to play.
So, and nobody will advance to the second adventure until the first one is completed. Ha 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 ha! Yes, isn't it though? Okay, so there you go. Total lethality. See, this is how you start a new campaign. How do you start a new campaign? You get people hyped to want to play, and you tell them right up front, I'm going to slap you in the face with a fucking trout and make you like it.
If you say so.
Alright, so, last but not least, what's coming up for us? What's next for GeoQuester Gaming? What does 2018 bring for us? Alright, so ladies and gentlemen, you already know that we have Iron Star playing every other Saturday. We have Dungeons & Dragons Legacy playing the opposite Saturday of that. Sundays, I am not running anything. Sundays, I need to have a little bit of life of my own, so I'm going to recuperate on Sundays. Mondays is going to be Legends and Lore at 9 p.m. Eastern every single week. Tuesdays, during the day, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, we run Delver Society. So therefore, anybody who wants to play Delver Society, they are a series of one-shot timed dungeon races that you can play a persistent or pre-made character. There's an entire website devoted to it. There's a whole chat group devoted to it. We have, what, 50 some odd characters in it already? People play with each other, they don't play with each other, they do this, they do that. Oh, it's a wonderful game. Everybody loves it who plays it. You'll never sweat so much over a D&D game and want to come back and do it again. People have had almost literal heart attacks watching it in Twitch. Okay, so there you go. That's how that one works. Wednesdays, we are going to be running the Tales from the Yawning Portal with the Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. The Dirty Rotten Scoundrels currently are, this is our list of them, Rob Toohey, who is going to be currently running the White Plume Mountain, which is the next adventure in Tales. That starts on the 3rd, which is this week, this Wednesday. FSH Schmo, who plays Cousin Eddie, the Bugbear Barbarian. We have E. Cruz, who plays Glib, the Goblin Sorcerer. We have CJ, who plays, oh good lord, I can't remember his name right off the top of my head. What's the name of the half-drow bard? Do you remember? I can't remember. Alright, but anyway, so yeah, we have CJ, who's playing a half-drow bard. I'm sorry, CJ, I totally forgot your character's name. We have Susie Q, who is now joining the Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. She is going to be playing, I'm not going to tell you. Not going to tell you. It's going to be a secret. It's a secret. And then myself, who is going to be playing, I'm not playing Juan. No more Juan Ignatius Maximilian Sanchez. No Juan in a Million. Nope. Juan in a Million has wandered off into Waterdeep to go hunt down some bastard who sent them on a bad quest. So I'm coming in with a new character, same time Susie Q is coming in with her new character. So we'll do that. Thursdays, for the time being, is going to be Delver Society in the evenings, about 8, 9 o'clock, depending on the day. Fridays, um, during the day, I think we're going to be doing some dungeon design, but at night, I don't stream because I host Rob Tui's stream, which is Tomb of Annihilation, which Susie Q plays in. And that brings us back to Saturdays. But in there somewhere, we will be having this new game that these four have just gotten here. We will be having Disposable Heroes joining the ranks in there somewhere on a regular night. And we will keep on going. So I do believe that's pretty much...
That
is pretty much everything. We got a lot of shit going on this year. Oh, and on top of that, I mean, of course, we got our DMs Guild offerings that are going on.
I know.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't have it already, the Not Really Complete Tome of Spells, which has 450 plus 5th edition spells in it, done for the Fantasy Grounds. It is up on DMs Guild. It's only $5. Myself and Jessica Wolfman put it together. She did all the original work on it. I worked on getting some of the editing and additional spells and writing and everything else all banged out. Plus, I did all the FG coding for it. It'll be out in PDF format, possibly here in the future. I don't know how long. She and I are still discussing that kind of stuff, and that will also be up on the Fantasy Grounds, or up on DM's Guild. Additional things coming out soon. We got lots and lots and lots of stuff coming. So if you want to know more, be sure to join our Discord. Other than that, I don't know what else to say here. What about Beast Pits and such? We will discuss Wraithborn soon. Okay. There will be a February announcement for Wraithborn. Oh, I do have one more announcement. January 20th, all day long, January 20th, is FG Days online convention. Fantasy Grounds Days is what it's called, DAZE. That will be going all day on January the 20th. There's a link in my Discord to the website if you want to run a game, if you want to play a game. It's got all sorts of stuff. It's got Call of Cthulhu, it's got D&D 5e, it's got Pathfinder, it's got Shadow of the Demon Lord, it's got, I mean, all shit tons of stuff. Savage Worlds, if you want to play that. So definitely go check that out. I think we might be running something for it. I don't know yet. But, yeah, definitely. Go check that out. Get in some of those games. If you haven't gotten over to Fantasy Grounds College yet to learn how to play with Fantasy Grounds itself, get over to Fantasy Grounds College, fantasygroundscollege.net. Be sure to check those guys out. If you haven't downloaded your free copy of Fantasy Grounds demo version, go on over to the Fantasy Grounds website, which is fantasygrounds.com. Be sure to download that. And other than that, I think we are all set here, Susie Q. What do you think?
We are indeed.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is it for today. Thank you, everyone, for coming by and watching this Legends and Lore. I don't know what next week's topic is going to be yet. If you have suggestions, be sure to dump them into our Legends and Lore category in Discord. But, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming by. For myself, for Susie Q, and for everybody here at GeoQuester Gaming, I'd like to thank everybody for coming by, and we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.
Hey, guys.